One thing we do in every single city for expos is, again, we have the EV Reality Check booth to really bring people from the industry together, talk about what's happening on a local level, but also at national level for charging, for cars, for energy, and also give a place for people to, again, rest their feet, listen to the conversation, hear what's going on in this space. You can charge your phones, and also just maybe get out of the sun for a minute. And in every city, I am joined by a partner in crime, and this time it is Dan O'Shea here in Seattle.
Thanks, Matt. I'm super happy to be here co-hosting the Reality Check stage. I'm an EV charging consultant, which is kind of a weird thing to be. I've worked at a variety of charging companies over the years, and I'm super happy that we have Lang Reynolds here today. I've known Lang since his time at Duke Energy, and he has an amazing range of experience for EV charging that he's bringing to the conversation today. So welcome, Lang.
Lang, so Lang Reynolds, you are the VP of Site Implementation for Electric Era, and Electric Era has its offices right here in the Emerald City. You are from the Emerald City, and you've had a very illustrious career so far in the world of EV charging and energy.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. It's great to be here at Electrify. Like you said, I'm VP of Site Implementation for Electric Era, based here in Seattle, and I have been in the EV industry for a little over 10 years now. As Dan mentioned, I started out with Duke Energy way back in the early days of electrification, installing EV charging with the utility across the Southeast. And then I spent a couple of years at Circle K as Director of North American Public Charging for the fuel retailer.
So now in Electric Era, you've kind of come home. You're back at your old stomping grounds. But what you're working on Electric Era is really about taking what we've seen with public fast charging and leveling it up as it relates to how you go about getting the chargers into the ground, but also ensuring that reliability is key and putting a driver-centric first approach.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and that's why I joined Electric Era. Is that the landscape at the time in early days, and even now, there's a lack of reliability and affordability. As well as profitability for a lot of the operators that are out there. So at Electric Era, our aim is to solve pretty much all of that. We install chargers faster, they're more reliable, and they're also more profitable for the operators.
Yeah, and Lang, you've seen from the early days, the early versions of EV charging from when 50 kilowatts was going to blow the grid, all right, to the difficulty with getting your charger to work, getting it fixed. So what are you seeing now as like what has to happen, which is I think what you're doing at Electric Era, right? You're pushing the industry.
Yeah. In terms of the next frontier, it's really about getting that reliability up to the level that we're seeing from a small number of providers. So we're one of them now that has over 90% reliability, and it's different from uptime. So a lot of people talk about uptime, which is basically how much the charger is talking to the cloud and everything is green. But reliability is a different thing. It's when people come and plug in and they're able to successfully charge. And there's been a challenge with that in the industry. We're now at over 90% reliability. There's a couple other providers that are up there, but really to get to that next frontier of consumers adopting and EV sales, we really have to provide across the industry, and that's what we're trying to really push the industry, and hopefully we keep installing more chargers, and our market share keeps growing, which will allow more customers to just charge seamlessly.
What do you think is the reason for the reliability being the way that it was? Was it just a lack of understanding of the ins and outs of making all the different pieces come together? What do you think was really the pitfall?
Yeah, a big part of it is just how many different cooks you have in the kitchen, so to speak. There's a lot of different layers to a single transaction. And the more you can delete those layers, the more reliable your charging is going to be. And that's one reason why we're a vertically integrated software and hardware provider. And so we cut out a lot of those layers. So you have payment processing, you have communications, you have the charger, the hardware itself, the software, the firmware, everything, the full stack. The more that you can delete from that stack, the better. And that's one reason why we have better reliability, is because we have essentially compressed a lot of those layers into one turnkey solution.
Yeah, I mean, I've experienced this by working at big OEMs where, and one of the pain points is the payment system. And when you talk about reliability, the station can be up and green, but if it's denying your credit or it's taking an authorization that your bank doesn't recognize, these are the things that people really didn't think about with EV charging, because the OEMs, as I've said before, were making a bent metal box with a lightning bolt on it. And now this thing has to be like an iPad, right? And those two universes were not meeting.
Yeah, exactly. At my former role, and one of the reasons that I came to Electric Era was that in my previous roles, we were seeing very poor reliability, not just reliability, but visibility on the actual operations of the charging station. We had, I won't name names here in terms of the suppliers from previous roles, but we were having a lot of problems with people giving us bad reviews online, and we were trying to figure it out because according to our operations dashboard, everything looked fine. Everything was green, the chargers were up, but then we would look online at reviews, and people would say, oh, the charger's not working, I can't get it to work, this is a bad experience. And it turned out that there were failures in the payment processing between the credit card reader and the cloud, and other failures like that. So we found out that our reliability was actually 35%. So only 35% of people who were plugging in could get a charge, and that was obviously not a good experience. So we had to do a lot of work with our vendors to improve that, and that's one reason why I started to look for a new company that would provide that seamless solution. And that's here at Electric Era. We're very proud to have our reliability over 90%. And really, if you look online at our reviews, people love our chargers. They're saying, oh, all I have to do is tap to pay. It's very easy. It works on the first try. And that's really, that's our whole raison d'etre is to really make it easy and seamless for people to charge on the road.
Well, I think one thing, it's like people that are new to EVs, they're hearing this conversation, they're probably thinking to themselves, I don't get it. Like, I go to the gas pump all the time, I swipe my credit card, and it works. So what is it that's different?
Yeah. EV chargers are very different from gas pumps, and unfortunately, I think the industry historically has made things a bit harder than it needs to be for ourselves. But we're really at Electric Era. We're really focused on, like I said, making it easy. You plug in. If you look at our screens, all you have to do is plug in and tap to pay, and everything works automatically, so to speak. We don't have an extra app that you have to download, and it doesn't matter what kind of car you have. It doesn't matter if you have a subscription to a certain charging network or anything like that. So it's really designed to be seamless. And in terms of why is it more difficult than gas fueling? We could probably spend a lot more time. I don't know if we have enough time to get into the technical infrastructure.
I was looking for like that high level, like it really is kind of the touch points of what's happening behind, like just basically in the software and behind the scenes.
Well, the gas business has had 100 years to figure it out.
That's right, and it's like, okay, I swipe my card, I communicate, I can authorize the payment. The next thing is that you just have to dispense that that liquid fuel, and that from that point is again, it's a pretty uniform way of doing that.
I mean, I'm old enough to remember when I had to go into the gas station, talk to a human, give them money, and then go back out and pump the gas, and then go back in and get my change.
The first car you drove went ding ding. Come on. No, but to your point.
So now you don't, now you don't have to do that.
But the human factor is what we've been very accustomed to when it comes to I got to go get my fuel. And a lot of, I think, original electric vehicle charging deployment, there was a sense that, well, we can just kind of get this out there. It'll work. And there doesn't need to be a station tenant. We can just put it wherever we want. But in reality, there's a lot of factors that you guys have identified that, no, you can't just have the physical charger there and have it be piecemealed out to all these different touch points. There are failure points that happen. So the control that you guys have put together for software and hardware and combining it the way that you've done, it reduces those failure points is essentially what's happened, right?
Yeah, exactly. The more the layers you can delete from the system, the more reliable your charging experience is going to be, and that's why we have a very seamless integration all the way down to very deep level with the charger. So we don't make the chargers themselves. That's about the only piece that we don't manufacture here in Seattle. But we make everything else in terms of software, the communications, networking services, and my team is responsible for the actual physical build of the chargers. So that's another thing that we're providing for customers to make it easy for them. Our customers, who are the retailers who are operating the chargers, we make it easy for them by coming in and doing everything from design, permitting, utility coordination, construction, commissioning, everything that's needed to get the chargers into the public.
And one of the coolest things you guys are doing is it's not just, okay, we're putting chargers in the ground, and we're calling the utility saying, all right, we got chargers here. You also have backup batteries that are sitting there at each site, and that's a big part of the reliability factor, is ensuring that all the things that happen related to how energy is used, the batteries that you're including with the chargers on site really add to that seamlessness.
Yeah, that's right. That's a key part of our technology offering is the battery. So we're able to reduce the amount of power that we're drawing from the grid, and that does a lot of things. It increases your profitability because it makes your load shape more stable. A higher load factor. That's better for utilities. It's better for all customers, really. and it lowers the cost of electricity for the operator. So that's one big advantage to our system. It also allows us to deploy chargers faster because you're taking a lower grid service size, and so the utility doesn't have to do as much work on their end to bring in the power to build the station. So that's one of the other key things that we're doing is deploying chargers faster, and the battery is a big part of that.
So what's the vision overall? You guys have how many sites now nationally?
Yeah, right now we have 18 sites operating. So we're starting from a small base last year, but we've been growing really quickly. We installed 10 stations last year. We're on pace to do probably 30 or 40 this year.
Okay.
And the mission is to 10x that number and start getting to hundreds of stations a year in the next few years.
Because you're 50 state focused. I mean, inevitably, I'm assuming internationally focused as well. But that's the point, is the way you've designed this implementation. We're talking about Quincy yesterday, your CEO, and about how deployment can sometimes take years to get a charger in the ground and up and working. But you guys were able to leverage existing infrastructure that had been deployed previously, come in with your technology, and deploy a new station in, what was it, like, maybe again, 8 months, something like that?
Yeah, we did a site recently in 2 months. So
That's
it's
crazy.
that's probably our fastest site yet.
Which is incredible. I mean, there's over the years, if someone said they could do that, there's no one in the industry that would say, I believe you. Right, and now that can be done.
You can't do a gas station in 2 months.
Yeah, you've set the bar, and it's good for the industry overall. How do you go about, this kind of two-part question. So there's the federal subsidies that are, the funds are getting re-released. How much of your plan going forward is sort of grant or subsidy-based, or going to a big retailer or any retailer or someone with property, like let's say that you've got the government comes to you, like the government funding comes to you, it's there. Is there another part of that where you're going out and looking for prime real estate or prime customers?
Yeah, for sure. So we have a team that does the government affairs relationships, and they do a lot of the grant funding applications. But what we're seeing in the industry right now is a pivot away from, obviously, the federal funding. There's a cloud over it because of everything that's happened over the last 6 months. So a lot of customers are focusing elsewhere. They're focusing on state programs, state and local funding programs, and then there's a lot of people that are installing chargers without funding because it makes sense from a business standpoint. To your point, the retailers, the large retailers, national retailers, they want to get ahead of this. They want to get a foot in the door. They want to test drive the industry or get things started if they haven't already. So there's a lot of entities that are installing without subsidies.
So you've worked at a fueling retailer, and now at a CPO and a provider. Are there different business models if I'm a fueling retailer, convenience store, or I'm a big box store that has to do with either the pricing or the having the fast chargers on site?
Yeah, definitely. So from my experience in the fuel retailing industry, a lot of fuel retailers are looking at EV charging as just like gas fueling because it's fueling your vehicle. So they're trying to put it in the same box, and it's really not the same at all because primarily because it takes a little bit more time and you're doing it less frequently. You're doing it more in your house, at your home parking location, or at your workplace. That's where the majority of your charging is happening. So it's more convenient from that standpoint. And then when you're out on the road and you need a fast charge, that's typically going to take a little bit longer just because of the way the power levels are today. And that stop generally happens at the same time as you're using the restroom, getting food, and things like that. So it's a little bit, the average gas station fill up is, I think, 3 to 5 minutes, something like that. And the average EV fast charging stop is closer to 20 to 30 minutes at this point, right? So if you're a retailer, you have to think about how do we serve the customer for 20 to 30 minutes, and it's probably a different offer than the 3 to 5 minute stop of the person getting gasoline. And when I'm road tripping, I know the car is often ready before I am because I'm in the store, I'm using the restroom, I'm getting food for my kids, I'm letting the dog out to do her business as well. So the retailer has to have that offer. It's different than just a straight gas station, and that's something that the industry is still struggling with, I think.
So is it possible? So people have been thinking for years, faster, better, faster, better, faster, better. But if I'm a retailer and my average dwell time is 25 minutes, I don't want someone done in 10. And so that
you
goes
want them
to
leveraging the fact that the amenities nearby.
Yeah, I know how long I'm going to be there. I'm going to go get a sandwich. My kid has to go to the restaurant, whatever it is. So that seems like it could be an important factor in aligning those times.
And I think what we've seen in the past is that some chargers have been installed where there wasn't anything of an amenity actually nearby, but there was access to power. And I think that that's something that we saw. It was almost like the low-hanging fruit of where can we put these chargers to get infrastructure out there. But the thoughtfulness around the driver need compared to the use case and the dwell time of the fueling experience wasn't really being thought of as much as we just got to get stuff done. But what you're talking about is a much more seasoned experience and looking at where there were gaps and saying, okay, no, let's be very, very strategic about this. And again, the technology is kind of caught up to that too, in the sense of it's not an hour wait or a 2 hour wait to fill up. It is like 20, 30 minutes in the best case scenarios. So to that point is that really the focus? When you have someone come to you and say, we'd like to have you install chargers, is there part of that assessment that's included of, do we want to sell our equipment and work with this partner? Is it the right fit? I mean, is that part of the assessment?
Yeah, that's definitely part of the assessment for us at Electric Era. We have a team that, we have a model that looks at locations and we have criteria where we will and will not install and support customers. To your point, a lot of the early locations are it's where they had power, it's where they had a willing site host, and in the early days, that might have been a gravel parking lot. And now we are seeing a lot more competition in the industry, which is a good thing overall. And operators are competing on their location. They need to have a good location, they need to have good amenities, and if you have a choice of where to charge, you're going to go to the place where you want to charge, not where you have to charge.
Well, again, actually, you just hit the nail on the head. It's where you want to charge, not have to charge. It was where you have to charge for the last 10 plus years.
Oh, and there were places where I would not send my family at night to plug in.
Because the have to charge thing is where we started.
Yeah.
The where you want to charge thing now, I mean, we are really truly now competing on the driver experience. And that's something that if you're not being thoughtful about that, you will just develop something. You'll spend a lot of time and money, but it doesn't mean someone's going to end up using it.
Let's talking about the future. You've been to Norway, you've been to Scandinavian countries, right? Like, I've seen sort of the modular buildings that they're putting in with the swipe. Can you talk about, is that something that should come to the U.S.?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. And I went over to Norway when I first started with Circle K back in 2022, 21 or 22. And like you said, it's the future. 90% market share of new vehicles are EVs. They have charging on every street corner. The interesting thing, I think, from a retailing industry standpoint there, what you see is a lot of the locations it looks more like a quick serve restaurant than a gas station.
Yeah.
So their in-store offering is a lot different than a typical gas station. So the food is very good, and not just because it's Norway and not the U.S., but the food is very good. It's more of a full meal. It's not just a grab and go. They still have the grab and go stuff, but it's more of a restaurant than a pure gas station.
And we're seeing some of that sort of filter into what we're seeing for other networks and what they're deploying. Kind of, again, it's a driver-centric appearance of, okay, we've got something with restrooms, we've got something with food and options, we've got awnings, we've got shade, things of that nature. I think what we're describing is that this is that infrastructure 2.0 that we've kind of been waiting for, but we're at the start of it. And again, you guys are 18 locations in. What you said, like maybe 40 by the end of the year or so? Is that kind of where you guys are aiming?
Yeah. If we can build fast, we might have a little bit more, but I don't like to overpromise.
Well, you've certainly proven that. So I guess kind of rounding things out for those who are here today, listen to the conversation. If they want to learn more about Electric Era, where do they go to find information?
So our website, electricairtechnologies.com, is really the best place. We've got our map on there. It has all of the locations. We have a pretty good presence on social media as well, if you look at all the normal channels there. So just search for Electric Era.
And what's the closest Electric Era charging station to here?
Yeah, it's currently in Arlington, Washington, right off of I-5. So if you're headed north, if you're going to Vancouver, you're going up the North Cascades Highway, you can hit up the Arlington SkyCharger location.
And it's right there at the intersection.
It is, yeah.
Super
and
convenient.
pro tip, the Indian restaurant next door is very good. It doesn't.
Excellent.
It's very nondescript, but it's
strategic placement for the charger. And lastly, one thing Quincy mentioned yesterday is you guys have an event happening at your offices in the next week or so. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, we have a EV charging customer webinar that's happening on Tuesday. So make sure to check that out. I think the details are on LinkedIn and also are on our website.
Cool. Sounds good. Well, for those who've been listening, this is the EV Reality Check Space. It is powered by GreenCars.com. We're talking today with Lang Reynolds from Electric Era. Electric Era is on the forefront of proving out how you can do EV charging right. They're based here in Washington. That's a really cool thing about Electrify Expo is every city that we go to, it really is a chance to talk to the folks that are on the front lines, also behind the scenes, making the industry happen. So again, if you're shopping for an EV or if you own an EV, make sure to check out Electric Era in Arlington, nearby station, but also go by their offices this coming week. Check out what they have. have on what they're doing. The team is great. And for those listening in, this is a place to rest your feet in the shade, charge your phones, get a free T-shirt. This is the EV Reality Check space. Lang, thanks so much for coming by, man.